Hey there, welcome to the Game Artist Podcast. My name is Ryan Kingsline. I am the founder of the Game Art Institute, where we train artists for the career of their lives. In this podcast, we interview amazing game artists to see what makes them tick and see how they got where they are today. So sit back, relax. I look forward to sharing their journey with you. All right, and so we are right here at Siamak's Art Station. So what's the URL? Yes, it's Siamak CGM. So you go artstation.com/Siamak CGM. That's where you're going to get him. So thank you so much for being here.
I'm happy actually to help. I'm flattered actually you invited me. That's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited that you're here. And why don't we start by telling people what you do? Because I think the title says lead character artist, right?
Yes, I'm a lead character artist at Suckerpunch for the past, basically since 2nd of October 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm a lead working with outsourced team, working with in-house team, a lot of management decisions and things like that, which I can explain based on your questions, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I guess the question I've got is how does your day differ from a normal character artist since you're a lead? What are the extra things you do?
There's a misconception about being leads. Like a lot of people think if you're a lead, you get to do the best works or you're going to do all sort of arts and things like that, right? But when you're lead, it's basically depends on the studio as well. But different studios have different rules. But for me, it's like more like management, which is tough, based by the way. It's a lot of responsibilities. I have to train outsource people, outsource companies. I have to make decisions on hiring people, training people in-house, making the schedule, talking to design team, talking to the tech team, concept team. I do art as well, but it's hard to say before when I was working at Sledgehammer Games, it was like 80% art and 20% other things, or 70%, 30%, Now it's the opposite actually. So it's like a 40-50. Even though I'm managing mostly or doing other things, it doesn't mean that I don't have influence. I actually have a big influence on the type of work that needs to be made. But it brings a lot of responsibilities as well, right? Yeah. So I hear a lot of people are like, yeah, I want to be lead or I want to do this. I think they should do more research because that might not really be what they want to do. I wanted to do this. I enjoy dealing with people, training people, helping other team members to grow. So
what do you think makes a really successful lead?
I have worked with bad leads and good leads. So you need to understand people. There's a lot of psychology involved behind it. It's not just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a lead and give this guy the work that he wants or manage it this way. I'm gonna be the best lead ever. It's very important that you should understand people, right? For me, this is basically the first time that I'm like manager. I had experience like at a Sledgehammer or other jobs. I was freelancing for 2 years. I had worked with other people that I was getting a lot of freelance work, and I was like, okay, can you help me? Different friends. But working in a studio like this size and working on a big title, it's different. It's a lot of responsibilities, right? So to be successful, so far I have been successful. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. There's sometimes you have to make tough decisions. You have to work hard. You have to sometimes work overtime. You have to be able to understand people. So besides doing art is part of it. But the biggest part is how you're going to deal with people, how you're going to keep your team happy, how you're going to manage the work so you don't just do boring stuff or give them boring stuff and give the good stuff to someone else, and you have to be aware, keep the moral up, don't make the working environment toxic. If something goes wrong, you have to be ready to talk to people. It's hard. There is a lot of emotional work involved as well, psychology, emotional beside art. And I had to actually read a lot about it, research about it, read books and things like that. It's not an easy thing to do, but once you understand how to do it, then it becomes like a routine and becomes part of your personality.
Yeah, I get it. So do you miss the art much, or?
That's a great question. Sometimes I miss. Obviously I'm an artist, right? But I try to keep myself busy. Every time I'm not doing any management or anything like that, I'm like, okay, now I have an hour or 2 hours. So I'm going to work on this character or make this blend shape or work on a part of armor. The thing is, when we outsource work, for example, I get the work back and I'm like, I see issues, I give them feedback.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I'm not doing art. I'm actually constantly improving myself because seeing others' mistakes, it's basically for me, is okay, someone else made this mistake, I catched it, and now I can learn from this, right? And then later when I do something, I'm like, okay, that time, that outsource team or that person made a mistake, and I learn from it, so I can implement that in my art. It's an instant, constant improvement.
Don't tell my students, but I learn from them too.
Yeah, that's definitely. I learn from everyone, but that's actually a good sign of like, being lead or teacher. And actually, it's interesting because I have seen people that they're saying like they don't want to deal with being lead, but for me, it's actually the opposite because I like to interact with people, and I think the biggest thing that artists are missing, they're just like constantly just doing art, and I think being a successful artist, if you want to be super successful, you need to also work on your socializing, basically skills, how to deal with people, how to respond to in certain situations. And I actually see like it's lacking in artists these days. It's very common that people don't know how to deal with each other. It's kind of upsetting.
A bunch of introverts.
Yep.
Yep. So you mentioned something earlier about how important it is to be kind of well-rounded, not just artists, monkeying around with software, but doing other things. So how do you get yourself like inspired? What are some of the ways that you kind of break out of CG in the computer in this box?
The first thing that I can tell you first, I'm playing piano. I started ago, yeah, and I'm actually spending 3 days every day, every single day. That's my routine. Every single day, I have to play for 3 hours. Today is an exception because we are talking. So, but
well, thank you.
Yeah, so every single night, if I don't practice, I will not sleep. And there is a reason behind it because it makes me relax and I enjoy it. I play classical music. And I actually recommend to everyone, like when I talk to my friends, I'm like, you're missing big time if you're not learning music. That's one of the things I do. I can talk more about it, but it's one of my biggest passion. Even my brother is a musician. So when I was a kid, I was also playing, but I was more into like making the sculptures and stuff. I mean, a year ago, I started to also sculpt by hand, but there's only so many hours in a day, right? So I had to pause that for a while until like I can do the things that are more important to me first. Like for example, like to upgrade myself on weekends. Recently, I started again to sculpt in ZBrush, basically digital sculpting, and I'm focusing just to expand my anatomy knowledge. So that's one thing, and also I read every night. I read books. I mean, I've set a goal for myself this year that I have to read this many books and the topics that are related to me, to expand my knowledge and help me to grow and learn from art or topics that are related to art or to how to say like self-improvements, things like that,
Yeah. Do you have something that you're reading now that you recommend?
Yeah.
For those on the artist journey?
Yeah, definitely. The one that I'm reading now, it's not related to artist journey, but there are several books that I can recommend. The ones that I started this year. One of them is I think every single person should read it. It's called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing book. I think everyone should read it. That's the only book that I would say if no one reads a book, they should read that one.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, one of the greatest lines in that, I think it's actually even on the cover or it's quoted in there, but it's the statement that no one can take away that final human freedom, which is just to decide for ourselves what something means, right? So no matter how bad it is, and he's using, of course, the concentration camp example.
Yeah. The other thing that he says, which is very interesting to me, and I did it unintentionally in my life. I'll give you a quick brief about what happened to me and how I came here. And I'm actually exactly where I wanted to be. It's interesting.
Yeah, you mentioned when you were younger, like 15. Did you?
Yeah, I started when I was 15.
Yeah, did you envision this, or how did that work?
Yeah, and I'll tell you that now.
Okay.
Which is related to Viktor Frankl's line. He says, don't look for how, look for why. Your target should be why. How to do something, you'll find a way. That's human nature. If there was no why do you want to do this? You should have a goal. You should look for the outcome. And I think all the people that are somewhere like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or all those great people throughout history, Albert Einstein, Newton, right? They were not looking for like how to do something. They were like curious. They wanted to do something to achieve a bigger goal, right? And when I look at my life, it's very interesting. When I was a kid, when I was born, my mom says like when they were buying toys for me, I wouldn't play with them. I would just make toys myself by hand, even when I was 2 years old. So that's interesting. And then when I grew up, I started to playing video games, like Sega at the time or the first PlayStation. When PlayStation came out, I was like, oh, this is amazing. Games are 3D. That was like blowing my mind, And then I was actually saving money whenever my father was giving me like a little bit of money. I would just skip it and go to a club and just play, PlayStation because I didn't have PlayStation myself. And I was calling it Sony at the time. This is like 1999 or 98. I was a kid. And then one day my cousin told me like he bought a computer and he's like learning programming, right? And I was like, okay, so maybe they're making these games with computer. I didn't have any idea what's going on. So I was on the high school, basically first grade. And then I told my father I need to get a computer and learn computer. And he was like, why do you need a computer? I was like, no, I need it for this. And he set a goal. He said, if you get a good grade, then I'll do it. My grade was bad in the first term, basically. But the second term, I was like reading crazy, And then finally, I got the grade that he told me to get. Then he bought me a computer. And then it was a coincidence, actually. It's funny because when I got it, there was 3D Cinemax on that machine, the trial version. I don't remember exactly. This is like 2000 or 1999. I don't remember the exact year. I was 14 or 15 years old. And I was like, it was kind of strange because when I opened the software, I was like, oh, this is interesting. You can make 3D stuff with it, right? It just played with my mind. I don't know how to describe it. And then time passes, and then I buy more computers. And then I started a friend of mine told me there's a software called ZBrush. And I started to look for it. And I finally started to play with ZBrush. And then after some time, that was ZBrush 2, I think. Like that was a really old, there was nothing. It was basically really simple, basic sculpting tools and stuff. So yeah, I started to work with that. And then over time, I was like, yeah, I need to make games. This is what I want to do. I need to be a VFX artist and make characters. Then in 2004, there's a company called First for Figures. They're making toys. At the time, this guy, his name is Alex. He's a friend of mine actually now. He approached me and I was like, I want to make this. I want to make toys. Can you help me? And I was like, yeah, why not? And I was crappy, by the way, at the time. I couldn't even, when I look at the stuff that I did at the time, I was just like, I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. What did I think about myself making models, And then I did a bunch of things for him. And then that kind of pushed me to feel like, okay, I started CG. Now I'm like, people are trying to approach me to get work done, right? Because I didn't know you can make money with it. My passion was like, I want to make stuff only.
Right.
I was a child, right? And I was just like thinking about making stuff. And then I was like, okay, if I make money, I can buy a computer. So after a while, I made some money that I could buy a new computer. I bought a new computer. It was like 2006 or 7. And I was like, I need to learn as much as possible. Then 2008, fast forward, I went to Dubai to just basically find a way to basically move out and find a place to expand myself, right? And then there was this company called Clockwork VFX. I went there and I visited them and I was like, okay, guys, I'm looking for a job. Would you hire me? They were like a small VFX studio. And Jason, the owner, he was like, do you want to do a test for us? They were making cars at the time, commercials and things like that. And he gave me a test, like make the car door, make the door for this car and bring it back. If it's good, they'll give you a job. I took it home and I made the whole car in like 5 days. It's funny. Yeah. And when I brought it, he was surprised. He was like, wow, this is crazy. You didn't use a scan. You just made the car in 5 days. I'm like, yeah. And then like a nerd, I was like working since like 8 a.m. in the morning until like 12 p.m. at night,
Yep.
So yeah. And then after like 2 months, he offered me a job. He was generous enough to offer me a job. When he offered me a job, I went back to my country again. I'm from Iran originally. So I was like hopeless, but I was like, no, I'm not gonna end up here. I'm not gonna just stop, And I was like, yeah, I need to practice as much as possible. So I locked myself inside my room, like not going out, just eating in my room, not watching anything, not doing anything, just working. And after like 2-3 weeks, this was like 2 months after I moved out of, like after that, I did that freelance job for Clockwork. Jason messaged me. I was like, do you want to come here? And I'm like, because he saw my new works. I was like, yeah, why not? And then it happened. And after like 3 weeks, I went back and I started working there more seriously. 2008, beginning of 2008. I was there for 2 years. And then, when the financial crisis happened, things were going sideways. And then he had to fire me. So he fired me. We're still friends. He's an amazing guy. I never forget what he did for me. And then I found another job. I worked there for like 2 years. And then I got married to my amazing wife. I think 90% of my success is because of her. So yeah, from there, I started to work really hard. I was working full time and then coming home and practicing and doing other things. learning anatomy, learning how to render texture as much as I could, use the time as much as I could. And then it was in 2012, I think, I started to do a bunch of characters, which is like, you can see it in my portfolio, like this one.
I remember this one.
I was just like trying to learn human anatomy, and I don't like I worked on this like for 3 months on and off, right? I mean, every evening after work, I was coming home and I was like sitting and working and practicing and testing different lightings and stuff. And then what happened is I decided one day I was setting my life, this is not the job I want to do. I want to be an artist working in a good industry, not just like commercials. So I need to find a way. And she said, okay, quit your job and finish this work. So I gave my resignation and I quit my job at the time. And I finished this one and I put it on my CG Hub. And then it was crazy because I got so many awards and became like Expose 11 got the best award for portrait. And then got ZBrush top row and here and there. And then after I did this, I was getting a lot of calls for freelance, messages if I can make heads or things like that. And then eventually I started to work with a few companies like Real Time UK, which I worked on these two characters, like this one and this one, and a bunch of other things. Like I never shared them, but I just shared the best that I like. I did like a lot of other side projects, characters for different other companies. And then it was in 2013, I was approached by Konami, Kojima Production. And then they offered me a job, but the story between Kojima and Konami, they were like kind of like getting separated. So they took the offer back and I was hopeless. But again, I was like, no, I'm not going to stop here. I have to do something.
So by this point, you'd done freelance work. Were you out of Iran for good at this point? Like you weren't going back to Iran. You were.
No, I wasn't going back. Actually, the thing is, Ryan, when I started, I had a tough life. Right, my parents were doing whatever they could. I never had issues with like shelter or food or anything like that. Right, and I think I lived better than many other people. But it was hard for my parents to basically see what this job can do. They can see it now, but at the time they were like, "What are you doing? You need to be a doctor. You need to do this.
Yes.
Do that."
Yes, the whole, I don't know if it fits, but it's like in India, in Asia, my wife tells me all kinds of stories.
Yeah.
Your life is decided by 10th grade.
Exactly. That's correct, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. I think it's a shared kind of culture within everyone in that area.
How'd you get them on board, though? Sorry to interrupt, but how'd you get them on board? Because this is very...
I didn't actually. So this is the interesting part. When I was 18, they wanted to make me to go to university. I was like, I'm not going to do this. I want to do what I want to do. I'm not going to let you guys down. Just trust me. And it was hard for them. But after I started to make money and they saw, oh, money is coming from out of the country. That's weird. How do you do that? How do you make money from internet? I'm like, yeah, I'm making characters. They print it, make toys and sell it. And I still have the first toy that I made. It's here. I brought it from all the way from Middle East to here. It's
nice.
So yeah, when they saw it, they were like, okay, now we understand. And then when I went to Dubai, they were like, no, you cannot do it. You're alone there. Life is tough, blah, blah. You need to do this and that. I'm like, whatever. I'll either die or I'll do what I want. I'm not going to live the life that others want me to live. It doesn't matter if it's my parents or if it's, I don't know, friends or government. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give up,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I went to, and I had a tough time. Like I went to live with friends and we had fights, like shouting at each other. And I had to go outside. I was homeless at some point for a few days.
Mm-hmm.
Landlord kicked us out. It's a funny story. And after I did this one, after what happened with Kojima, I was like hopeless, but I was like, no, I have to do this. Then finally, I got a job in Florida. I was approached by Crytek. I was approached by this company called Dark Side Games, and unfortunately, they got out of business at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was like, after evaluating, I had a bunch of other offers from Europe, different countries. It wasn't official offers, but they were like trying to talk to me about it. I interviewed, I passed even the interview for Crytek, and I was about to go to the consulate, get a visa, and go there and visit them, directly and things like that. But when I spoke to this guy, his name is, I actually forgot his name.
Mm-hmm.
Rick from Dark Side. So he called me, it was 3 a.m. midnight, and I was like, yeah, I'll come there. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. After a conversation, obviously, he was the owner of the company.
Yeah.
And then I thought it's going on, and then he started my application for O1 visa, which is the talent visa. And then what happened is the petition got approved, and then After that, his art director wanted to interview with me, which became kind of a story. He called me and he interviewed. I'm an honest person, I don't like to lie when I want to get a job, right? And he asked me a funny question. I was like, "What would you do if you were rich?" I'm like, "What do you mean if, if I were rich? Who would ask that question?" Then I was like, "Okay, I would do art, but I wouldn't work for anyone. I would go on the beach and drink beer." I made a joke out of it because I was kind of offended by the question. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm working hard and I want to do something, and you're asking me if, what would I do if I were rich? I'm not rich.
Yeah.
So then I messaged Rick and I was like, "Rick, what's going on? I don't know what's happening, but I mean, if you want me there, I'm here. I want to come. If you don't want me there, let me know, and I'll just look for another job." And then he called me and I was like, "Everything will be great. Let's do it." And I was like, "Okay, sure." And I told my wife, "Let's go here. Forget about Crytek." So I dropped Crytek. He got my visa. I moved to US, first to Florida, basically. And then I worked there for several months, like about 9 months. I applied, I got my green card, everything went well. And then suddenly I felt like the studio is going down. It was I could see the signs, things were not going correctly, and management was like kind of panicking and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I was fortunate enough because, again, at a critical time, it's funny because I got my green card like 3 months faster than usual. And my attorney was surprised by that. So I'm telling you this because of the how, right? I didn't think about how. I was just thinking why I want to do this, right? And then when I got my green card, a month after, the studio started basically going down, and I was like, I spoke to Ubisoft, and they wanted to hire me. Ubisoft San Francisco, amazing people. Like I really love them. One of the best places I worked. I mean, lots of stories there, but yeah, it was an amazing place. So they contacted me and they said, "We want to hire you." I was like, "This is amazing," because I'm just about to quit my job here. And I went to Rick and I was like, "I'm going to quit." And he was upset. I was like, "Look, this is not going to work for me. I mean, you guys are not giving me any characters. Everything is going sideways. I can feel something is wrong." And then Rick helped me, actually. He was like, "Yeah, okay, that's fine. I understand your frustration. Hope you have a good life, blah, blah." You know, that passed. I moved to Ubisoft, and then we were working on a project there. And then unfortunately, that project got canceled. You can see how many bumps on the way, right?
Yeah.
That project got canceled. So I'm like, "Oh, this is not right. I mean, two game project canceled one after another. What am I going to do?" And I didn't give up again. So after that, I applied for a sledgehammer, and the recruiter contacted me after like 15 minutes, just 15. It was funny. And then he was like, "Yeah, let's come here for interview, blah, blah." We spoke, and then I went there for interview a week after, and I got an offer in 2 days after the interview. So I moved there, and then I finished Call of Duty. And then just right before 2 months before we finished the project, I decided I want to move out. There was a lot of stories. They even removed my name from the credit, not because just because I left early, and I was upset about that. But I didn't let any of these two push me down, right? I mean, I contributed a lot on that game. So basically, it was August 17 when I left, and I had an interview with Suckerpunch a week after.
Yeah.
And I told him honestly, I left because I wanted to explore something else, right? And it's funny, like if in the beginning of the story, I told you, like when I was 15, my dream was like to work on game for Sony, right?
Mm-hmm.
And interesting enough, I interviewed with Crystal Dynamics. They gave me an offer. I interviewed with another game company. They gave me an offer. I interviewed with two more game companies. I don't remember their name. They were like mobile, and I was contacted by 8 Software. So I rejected Crystal Dynamics. I came here and I was like, I did the interview. Actually, I rejected after I interviewed with Suckerpunch. And I told my wife, I feel like this is the place that I should work for. And yeah, they gave me an offer a week, 3 days after, and everything went well, and I'm still here. I'm not planning to leave this time.
How long you been there?
Since 2nd of October 2017, I started.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about a year and a half.
So why do you want to do this?
Art?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's in my DNA. I mean, I love creating, right? I mean, if you look at the history of human being, by the way, I love archaeology and reading about human history and all of that. So I research about a lot about that topic. So if you look at the oldest like sculptures and paintings, 40,000 years ago, people were painting on caves, right? That was a way of communication, leaving a mark for the future to see. If you look at the history, like now we are doing it digitally, but I think even if there was no computer, I would make something by hand, to be honest. I think it's in our DNA. I mean, every human being is an artist. Every human being is a musician, right? Just think about it. Like, if you give a good game to someone to play or watch a great movie, they're going to enjoy it, right? It's art. Or if you take someone to an art museum, show them David from Michelangelo, they're going to love it, right? They're not going to say, oh, whatever, what is it? I don't like it, or an amazing painting from Da Vinci, right? So I think it's in our gene. It's just like some people like try to embrace it, try to, get to that direction. I think we all have art in ourselves, right? If you look at the daily life, everything you use is a piece of art, right? The designs you see every day, cars, desks, monitors, right? And people care about like amazing stuff. They buy an iPhone every day, not because of the technology, because it looks nice, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just fun. Like when I sculpt, I think it's fun to me. Like when I play music, it's just like takes me to a different world. It calms me, makes me relax. It's a hard feeling. I don't know how to describe it. You understand me. I don't know what to say. It's a feeling inside.
How long have you been married now?
10 years. I got married when I was 23.
How important is it, do you think, to have a partner, a really supportive partner?
If you don't have a partner, you don't have a life.
Mm.
That's how I would describe it. Like, I don't know what I can do without my wife. I can live, right? I can eat food, I can work, but I think love is everything. Yeah, probably love is everything because I mean, I'm doing my job because I love it. I'm with my wife because I love her. I couldn't imagine to be with someone that I don't love or do something that I don't love, right? I cannot be a salesperson, for example. I don't like to sell stuff.
So in terms of your work, it's a lot of character, a lot of stuff that you've done. So let's run through a couple of different checklists to just see like what it is that you really think character artists need to learn. Because from your own experience, being a character artist, so like environments, they deal with a lot, but character, you have to go really deep and
Yes.
you have to go deep in several different areas. So let's say if somebody's got 6 months, they want to make themselves as good, maybe 6 months or a year, I'll let you decide. And they want to make themselves a candidate for a job. What are the things that they should do?
Here's the thing, what I would say, never work for a job. That's a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
People set their goal too low because of a job. I have done that myself, and I'm like, when I go back, I will change the way I did the things. I will go the same way. I'll do all the things that I did, but probably I'll think more before I look for a job. Job is great. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm really enjoying it. My journey was great. Working with different people gave me a lot of experience, but the goal shouldn't be job. Because ultimately, when you set your goal to be a job, that means like you're thinking about money.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you think about money, you're throwing creativity away. Money is good. I'm not saying it's bad. I love money myself. I try to save and do all of that. But I think people should just work on, again, just on the why. Why they want to do this. Right now, I'm just like starting from zero again. I can tell you that because I'm starting to learn human anatomy again, like from scratch. I bought this book, Artistic Anatomy, which is an amazing book. And I think everyone should have that book if they want to learn to sculpt characters.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I understand people want to look for a job, but I think if they focus on their ultimate goal, the job will come. You know what I mean? Like they'll find a way, they'll find a job. They're not gonna be homeless or not have money, But if you focus mostly on your job, that means like you're training your brain to use the biggest resources that you have. Our brain is the strongest thing on Earth, basically, right? We can create things that no other creatures ever did on Earth, probably, right? So imagine like you focus all that energy instead of thinking like the side things like a job or moving to this place or that place, you can learn faster. So I would say if artists, if they want to get somewhere that they want to become an amazing character artist or an amazing sculptor, if I do it, I would focus on human anatomy, practice daily. I would just learn all the names of the muscles. I would read about different artists. I would follow like my idols, and explore their work and see how they did things. Nothing is better than learning from the masters because they went away. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just look at their work, try to analyze it, try to understand as much as you can from them. You don't have to like understand everything, but over time, when you give time to your brain, human brain is like this. Every time we learn some new skills, we're creating new wiring in our head. And every time you practice that, repetition is the power of everything. Repetition is the most important thing I would say. So imagine like if you repeat something every day for a certain amount of time, your brain creates more wiring. when your brain creates more wiring over time, you're basically exercising your brain, right? It's like someone who goes to gym, right?
Mm-hmm.
They practice and they lift weights. First day it's like 2 pounds, second day is like three, and they go up, and then after like a year they're lifting like 100 pounds, right, or 200 pounds. If they don't start small and if they don't have a goal, they're not going to be able to do that, right? Our brain is the same. So start small, give time to yourself, repeat, practice, study, and do it every day. And don't rush it. Like you need to give your brain time to process whatever you learn. And usually that happens when we go to sleep. And then technical side of it is important too. But you can learn the technical side on the way because technique is so limited compared to art. Art is like unlimited, right? You can go as far as you want. You can create billions of or unlimited amount of human posture, right? And study them. There's no limit to it, basically. So every time the posture changes, anatomy changes, right? But learning how to model characters, technology is improving. And I bet eventually, like Z modeler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eventually something will come that will create low risk characters without you doing anything.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Have you seen Houdini's low res stuff?
No, I actually didn't work with Houdini at all.
Yeah, one of my students, Natalie, her husband's a Houdini guy, and he showed her how to do the low res retopology all inside of Houdini. And it's similar algorithms to like Z remesher and decimation master, and well, I mean more to decimation master than Z remesher. But anyways, crazy powerful. And then I was talking to Marcin Kalicki just about just a couple of hours ago. He was like, they use Houdini there to redo topology on characters, on objects, on everything. Like, they obviously they craft it. There's more work. It's not just flat Houdini, but it's getting more and more automated. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And it's a code, right? But every time you make a code, it exists. It's not going to disappear, right?
Yeah.
But art is different. Every artist is different, right? I mean, Da Vinci used to paint amazing stuff, right? Amazing paintings. But Michelangelo was amazing. Bernini was amazing. They couldn't use each other's art, right? They couldn't take each other's sculpture and I don't know, like work on that. Like it's not like a code, right? They have to do it again.
Yeah.
But technique is always. I'm very technical too, by the way. I studied math and physics at high school, so I understand like topology like really good, really, or UV maps or how to manage memory and things like that. That could be one of my strongest points. Besides like art, I'm a good problem solver. Having that, I'd say like if you want to be an artist, it's great. They should definitely spend time on human anatomy. That's the most important thing. I don't care what their skin looks like. If they know how the muscles work, if they know how many bones are there, that's why I'm actually going back and trying to learn the layers that you don't even see, right? Like all the muscles inside and bones and things like that. So I'm basically trying to start from scratch.
It's the great limiter, right? It's like you can learn the software, you can learn the tech, but anatomy is the limiter. That's the one that decides how far you go at the end of the day, I think.
You're actually right on that. And you know what's interesting? I set my goals to be where I want to be, and I'm where I am, where I want to be right now, right? I'm not saying this that I'm how do I say, like, I don't want to be negative or anything like that. That's not what I mean. But I think I set my goal too low. Now I see that I could go way beyond what I'm doing now. There is no limit to human capacity. There's no difference. Like I'm a human being, I have a brain. You're a human being, you have a brain too. The difference is like how you use it, how you train it.
Sorry to interrupt. Rashid has a quick note in here that he's bringing up too, because he's saying, so basically what you're saying is that the way to approach learning is with a sense of discovery instead of a sense of what I need to learn to get this job.
I think so, because if you look at the human history, we are always looking for new things. We are always trying to discover, right? Journey to the moon or sending spaceships to Mars. This is all related. Like, by the way, like art is everything. Everywhere there is art everywhere. So if we didn't have that discovery sense, we would just sit in one place and we wouldn't leave our first lands. We wouldn't be anything basically. We would just be. We wouldn't evolve. So yeah, definitely. I mean, what I would suggest is like use what others learned and use their work, study them, and get better at. Become better at it. I know Da Vinci is amazing. Like he was an amazing artist, right? But do you think there are? No artists like him today. I think there are many artists that are better than Da Vinci or better than Michelangelo today. So And they wouldn't be if they didn't have a dream. You should always dream. You should always like dream big. Einstein says like, if you don't dream big, I don't know the exact sentence, but you need to dream about something before you achieve it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you shouldn't stop. Aim for the sky. Aim for unlimited. Like, don't aim for like, oh, I want to have a job in this country and here and do this and that. That's it. That's so limited. Like, you're just telling your brain, I don't want more than this. Throw away the rest of the potential.
Now, one of the things that I believe in is that sometimes if your goal is too big, then it becomes the problem in and of itself, because it's too hard to really even know how to approach it. So what do you say to people who are having a hard time finishing things? Because maybe they're reaching, but they've just lost the traction.
That's a great question. First, don't rush it. You have a goal, you're going to reach it. I mean, those who try to rush it, then they'll never reach the goal, because they get into this loop and they make mistakes every day, and they're just going to stay there for years. And then they're like 40 years old and they're, I wasted 20 years of my life. Okay, I'm going to give up, right? The best way I would say for me was this. I try to break the problems into smaller chunks. And I'm actually doing that when I'm learning music. I'm learning piano, like practicing every day. And every time I learn a new piece, I just pick a harder piece the next day. Or my teacher says, pick this one and it's hard, but you can do it. Every time I pick a new piece, I break it into sections. Like, I go every measure, small chunks, right? The ultimate goal is huge. Like, it's something that if I want to think about it, I want to play it in the next 2 days, it's impossible. And I won't give up, right? So you have a big goal, but write it down, make a decision. That's very important. Make a decision first. When you make a decision, start doing it immediately. Don't wait tomorrow. Don't say, I'm going to start next Saturday. And then your goal is there. It's not going to go away, but you don't have to think about it every day. You just sit there and practice and break it into smaller chunks. Like, if you want to learn human anatomy, right? First, you have to fail. You have to fail thousands of times or hundreds of times, When you fail, you learn from your mistakes. If you fail, that's actually a good sign, because that means you understood something that you didn't know before, because you understood that you failed, you did something. So now you know the problem, you're going to attack it and fix it. To make it easier is to break it into smaller chunks, like smaller pieces. Like human anatomy, they can work on a finger and then work on the next finger, work on the hand, work on the arm, work on the nose, and then put it together and then try to fix it. For human anatomy, one of the things that is very important is like proportion. People just jump into details and try to make like big muscles without any fat and put wrinkles everywhere. It's just too much. I would say proportion is the biggest part. With 20% of the details they want to create, they can make a good character, basically. Mm-hmm. Finishing it is another skill. Usually, if I start sculpting something, I can actually relate this to the bigger goal, right? Like, if they have a goal that they want to be someone huge in the art industry, like sculpting characters is the same. Like, I mean, if you want to make a great character, like for example, I start a character and then I take it up to a point. And I'm like, okay, from here I need to change it and I need to do something. And then I basically start researching what is missing and I break it into smaller chunks and I try to fix them one by one. It's like a problem solving thing, basically.
Corinne's I think she's got an important question here, right? Because we were talking about, a big thing that I focus on is jobs, because, it's kind of core to me. I mean, I was, I remember being a night restocker and working in bookstores and poverty, all that stuff. I get your message that, if you focus, the way I might phrase it is, if you focus on the job of it, then you kind of start from this position of scarcity and you start to change the way you do things for the job.
Yes.
And there's little else is worse as getting the thing that you think you love and then realizing that, you don't.
Yes.
And you're just here for the money, but you literally trained all your art is wrapped up around that. It's a hard road to hoe. I remember actually when I was starting, it was actually one of the things that made me change with UArtsy is I ended up building the school and I was like happy doing this. And then I ended up managing all these artists and I'm like, I'm helping people, but I fucking hate my life. Like I seriously hate my life. Like I don't like it, but I hate it.
Yes.
And that, that led to me scaling back and pulling UArtsy down and a bunch of other things, because you have to find your joy. I mean, hating your life, it doesn't matter what the hell you do. That sucks.
Yes.
But the question Corinne's got is, unemployed, wants to work in games, and we go from there. And the thing that I always tell people, that's kind of core to this conversation is if you need a job, if you need a guarantee on it, right, then the guarantee is programming. Like it just is. Like if you go 6 months, you learn programming, you will get a job. I mean, there's like 1 million unmet jobs by 2020 is last thing I read, which is insane.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I was just literally down I ran into the president of Turtle Rock Studios down at the cafe, the Grove down here in Laguna Beach. I was meeting with his wife on something we were thinking about having some animation courses. So I met with him and we got onto this conversation at one point, and it was just like, it's so true. There's such a demand for games or for programmers. If that's what you need, then that's the deal. But if you want to be a game artist, you have to be prepared for a different journey.
Yes. If you guys heard my journey, right, I had to work on jobs that I didn't like, right? But the goal for me wasn't that job. The goal for me was something else. That's what I mean when I say don't look just for a job. If you're looking for something like you want to work in a specific studio, work on a product, set your goal higher. And then, like, let's say you want to work for, I don't know, like Blizzard, right? If I want to work for Blizzard, I would look at the website, make characters that are similar to their style, right? I try to present myself as someone who can do their work. And you said like 6 months to a year, right? Depending on the skill, someone who starts from zero, I think that's a bit too rushed, 6 months to a year, if they don't have any knowledge of 3D, basically. I don't know what your experience is. You're more experienced than me on this, Ryan, because you have the school and what the capacity of people are, like how fast they learn and stuff.
It's for me, it's 8 months. If you have minimal experience, it's 8 months. The boot camp I have is kind of designed for people who have experience, although we kind of take the whole journey, right? And we right now, although this is changing a little bit, but everybody who's in this conversation has access to these office hours that I do every week. So that's just part of the boot camp. And I did that so I could really learn more about how people grow. And I've seen, if you start from nothing, I've seen somewhere around month 8, magic starts happening. It's like it's just the most beautiful thing ever, is to see somebody start out frustrated and then 8 months later, you're like, it's magic. Something's working.
Yeah. And I think that's correct, because I think I can't relate to that, because when I started practicing piano, I couldn't do anything, right? It's hard. It's a hard instrument. After 8 months, I was like, I can see that I'm leveling up. I think human brain works like that on everything, right? So I think what you're saying is correct. But obviously, like hard work, correct planning, using the time properly. I wouldn't work like for 16 hours or 18 hours a day, because you need to let your brain to relax and just sink in what you learned, right? If that makes sense. If you don't let your brain to relax, probably you have to come back the next day and redo what you did last night. I would definitely say like work-life balance is important. Like have some fun. But if they're desperate to find a job, I would definitely suggest like to look at, this is what I did, right? I applied for many studios, but at some point I was giving up, but I was like, okay, I need to, actually I can tell you this, 2012, I decided that I want to do something to change my life, right? And I made this Mafia man, the one that you saw, the portrait. And after that, it took me a year to find a job. So no, actually not a year. When I did that, I started working freelance. And then when I decided to move out, it took me about a year from 2013 to 2014 to move out. And then I moved to US, right? So I think 6 months to a year is a good estimate. But my situation was different, because I was like on the other side of the planet Earth, right? And companies, they don't usually, like, now it's easier because there's like there's a lot of demand in games, right? The industry is growing. It's easier to get visas. There are a lot of talents, a lot of games being made. So I think your estimate is correct, but there is a lot of hard work involved.
Oh yeah. It's not 8 months of it's 8 months of, at least what I've seen, it's 8 months of at least 20 hours a week on topic.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I would say 20 hours is a sweet spot, but I would spend more. Like, if they really want to do something, right? I mean, the way I would divide is like, okay, if you don't know anything about anatomy, spend 4 hours a day studying human anatomy. If you don't know about anything about like topology or how to be efficient for games, then go study that. Look at the game, search about it, and see how you should make low-res. And it's very important. Like, now we have to deal with it, right? I mean, you need to understand every part of making a character for game. And if you're applying for a job, you need to be ready. They're going to give you a test, for example, right? When you get a test, you need to do exactly what they say. Don't try to find a way to do the test fast, because there's a chance that if you do it that way, then you're going to lose the job.
Rashid's got a great question, and I know this is very timely for Rashid.
Yes.
So we'll ask this question that he's got. And then what we should probably do is wrap up the conversation of this. You've got some work to show, and then we could get some people's portfolios to review. But I think a nice way to wrap this up, at least this conversational part of this, is because you decided at 18 and you had Persian parents, right?
Yes.
Persian parents, which, it's like Indian parents. They're freaking ruthless and determined. I mean, like on a level that Americans just cannot comprehend. Like, Americans do not get Persian, Asian, Indian parents, and it doesn't make sense. Anyways, yeah. So, I mean, you've got some ruthless, determined parents telling you you've got to be a doctor, you've got to be something like this, and at 18 you say screw off, right? Not necessarily like that, but like I'm going to do my own thing. And Rashid's
what I said, to be honest. I'm like,
okay. I was like, oh man, maybe I was a little harsh by saying that. So you go into your hermit mode. What do you do? How do you manage that? How do you stay true and stay on mission?
Here's the thing. You have to believe it, Ryan. Believe it or not, it's actually interesting, like how human brain works, right? Mm-hmm. Dealing with parents is another question, right? I didn't fight with them or like, punch my father or anything like that, But I mean, I was like telling them this is right, and then I worked hard, right? I woke up in the middle of the night and I started learning, doing things, and then eventually they'll see it. That something will pass. Think about it this way: your present is going to be the past, and your future is going to be your present someday. So I always kept myself motivated by knowing that the future is going to be is bright. Actually, I don't know if I can send a message. It's a feeling. It's kind of philosophical as well, But I'm sure you went through the same process. You said you had to do different jobs and stuff, right? That you didn't like, but eventually you're doing what you wanted to, right? And I think regardless of what field you're in, I think that's what everyone has to deal with, right? So yeah, I mean, at some point I had to basically tell my father, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do this is what I want to do. You guys have to trust me. Yeah, you need to support me. And then when they saw actually how I was encouraging them, I was like making new stuff, and I was like calling my father. I'm like, look at this. I made this. Even if it was like crappy, it was just the beginning. Like I wasn't doing anything well. But to him, he didn't understand it. Right? I was like, oh, how did you make this? I started to convince them that way. Like I can do something different.
Yeah, that's nice. Involve them in the journey and show them that you are actually working hard, that it is something. Yeah. Because it is a mystery. I mean, I get that. It is a mystery. You tell somebody around here, I tell people what I do for a living and they still ask me, sorry, what do you do for a living?
Yeah. I mean, you're in a good spot, actually, Ryan. I mean, people were laughing at me when I was back in Iran. They're like, are you stupid? You should get a job. Open a shop and make money. What the hell is wrong with you? Like, yeah, whatever.
Open a shop, absolutely. Okay, let's take a look at your work tell me about this process. So as you're working and you're developing this, just tell me a little bit about your working process, because I think that's the thing that's most engaging to the guys right now. Is just how do they start these things?
A lot of people think I can. Do you want me to show the ZBrush?
Yeah. Let's look at the ZBrush, right?
Yeah.
So are you using Z-spheres, the base mesh? Are you posing? How are you developing?
Those are the technical side, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Everyone is different. People are, that's where things get a bit weird. Like people are like picky about how they start. That doesn't matter. I mean, choose whatever you want. Z-sphere, I don't know, like pick a cylinder and turn it into a character and use Dynamesh and make hands and arms and sculpt them. But usually, first thing I do, I try to make the proportion of the character, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In this case, I actually made this head of this character like a year and a half ago. And 2 weeks ago, I was like looking at it, I was like, okay, I want to do something new. Because I was thinking to get back to anatomy. This is not done. I just worked on it for like 2-3 days.
Yeah.
I worked on the head in the past. And then he's asking about the concept. There's no concept. I just make things out of my head.
So man, I love the detail.
It's not done yet. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And, concept, I would definitely suggest people learn develop your brain, learn how to create a stuff, like design a stuff. That's very important. So what he's asking about concept, if you can draw as well, that would be great. I don't know how to draw. I used to do it when I was like 19, 20. I was drawing figures.
Mm-hmm.
But now I cannot do it. My hands don't help me. I'm more digital right now. I kind of sculpt my hand like clay. But so yeah, about the process, imagine this. I'm going to tell you how I made this one. It's kind of crazy. I made the head first, and I was like, okay, should I finish this as just a head or add a body to it? And I was like, okay, I'm going to make the upper body. And he was like a standing guy. He wasn't this, actually. And then I was like, okay, now actually maybe I can load the previous version so you can see what I mean.
Yeah. I love those hands, by the way. It looks like you spent a lot of time on those hands.
I actually didn't spend so much time on this, but because I was weak on making hands, now that's actually one of the strength of my skills.
Yeah, those are some powerful hands.
So yeah, I wasn't good at sculpting arms, and a friend of mine was making joke of me, and I was like, "That's stupid. It looks like a balloon and stuff." At the time, right? And I was like, "Okay, I have a weakness. I'm gonna turn it into a strength." So that's another thing people should say. That's amazing you said it, because your weakness today is gonna be your strength 10 years from now if you just work hard on it. The process. Let me see if I can find the old file. Maybe I can look at this one. It's a bit heavy. Look at this. I mean, it's just something, right? It's not even like I was sculpting muscles. I was like, maybe I should make a skinless guy. And then it kind of evolved, right? I mean, it's funny. Like again, we get back to the evolution. From this, I came to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he didn't have a lower body, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a lower body. Now I have a base body that I use, right? I just have a simple body that I made long time ago, and I'm just like, every time I want to sculpt, I don't go back to the scratch, like doing Z-sphere or what do you call it, like Dynamesh, basically. I try to skip that part and basically focus more on the art, because my goal right now is to be the best on anatomy and do what I really want to do. And then the tail was separate. Actually, can show you. You see these groups?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So these were all separate. Like I added the tail at the end. I was like, maybe I should make a tail. And before actually I get to this point, let me see if I have his previous pose. It was actually in a different pose. I was just like in a regular crouching pose. And I'm going to share some references that I used for this one. I was just making it this way first. And then I was like, in my head, I was like, I want to make a creature that slowly turned to this, right? That looks like a weird humanoid creature. And then basically he can jump like a frog, And then I was like, no, that's not what I want. I want to make a creature that is ripping off something. And then I was like, eventually I'm going to add a car roof here that he's sitting on top of a car and trying to rip it off.
Nice.
Yeah. So the other part of the process is I sculpted first symmetrically. Like I made this, right? And then I decided that I need to put him in pose. And then I changed it. I got rid of the skinless body. And then at this point, I was like, okay, so this is so boring because he's like symmetrical and it's exactly the same thing mirrored. I was like, maybe I should just change the pose. Now, since changing the pose, I'm just sculpting it asymmetrically. That's actually very important. Like people try to sculpt everything symmetrically. I think that's like boring.
So you come in, you have a head, and you're just kind of free flowing and moving forward with this. So are you using, just to get some technical things, so is this Dynamesh, or are you using a like Z-remesh topology, or how? Yeah, I see it.
Yeah,
okay, so you're using decent topology, basically.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually not good right now, but I'm actually picky about topology.
Okay.
I always if I decide to retopol this, it's got to be 100% clean without any triangles. It will be all quad polygons, ready for rigging. I'm so picky about it. Actually, I have OCD.
Why are you picky about that? How does it help you? Because I'm sure you do it for a reason.
Yeah, there is a reason, because it makes the job easier for riggers to rig it if we eventually decide to rig it, or even for UV and texturing, it's easier. Beside that, it's mathematically is proven. Everything. If you follow math, everything is math. right? Even art is math, universe is math.
Mm-hmm.
If you have like a nice flow in everything mathematically, you'll have it's going to turn out better. Like if I have a good topology, then I don't have to deal with like stuff like this. You see what's going on here? This is giving me such a hard time when I want to sculpt. Like if I try
Oh,
to,
yeah.
you know what I'm talking about,
I
right?
do. It's so annoying. God.
Yeah.
And even, I
So
mean, the clay brush was literally built to deal with those situations,
it doesn't work.
and it's just not that. So
So yeah, that's important. And I get annoyed by stuff like that. And because I have a mathematical brain as well, a little bit, from high school, and I was good at geometry, by the way. So because of that, I'm a bit personally, I'm a little bit picky about like having a clean geometry. And it
well,
helped me all the way. Like, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, this is your ode to your parents. This is the engineer. You're giving them the engineer.
They were, yeah, yeah. I mean, I was like, they were not engineers; they were bankers, by the way. But yes, I showed them. They're like surprised. Yeah, this is amazing. What are you doing?
Awesome. All right. Yeah, this is beautiful. All right, guys. Questions, shout them out. Otherwise, let's see some portfolio links. Cool. Let's look at Daniel's. All right. We're starting with Twitter.
Oh, they're sharing this stuff here.
Okay. Can you see okay?
Yes.
Okay. So let's just take it from there. Yep.
Okay. So here's the thing. Again, as I said, people try to move too fast. I think he should basically go back study human anatomy. It's great that he's trying to learn texturing and all the technical stuff, right? I would call these technical because
Yeah.
technique you will get it on the way. You have to get it if you want to be in the industry. Or there's a chance like 5 years from now you won't have to deal with it. I mean, Substance Painter made texturing so much easier. So there are a bunch of issues here. I should criticize, right? Or
Yeah, let's look at this. And so the way that I like to do this usually is like, what's one thing that's positive that's going to help them move forward? And then at the end of the day, what is it that they need to work on?
I think positive
yeah.
here is like he's trying to explore different things, different areas as an artist, right? He's like eager to learn more and do more, basically, which I think it shows like he's curious and he wants to get there. To improve it, I think again, human anatomy is very important, and then detailing it, and then after that is like PBR workflow for games. If he's trying to work in game industry, he should learn how to do PBR workflow and understand the materials. What are the parameters that make metal a metal, right? What are the parameters that make cloth? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or gold or silk, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a separate study. It doesn't happen in a day. It requires like research and understanding like physical, because PBR, this is a good thing about PBR. It's called physical based, right? It says physical, right? That means like it's if they look at the attributes of a specific material in real life, and they can search it on Google, they can easily find out about it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and put it in Painter, they can make a shader easily right now, right? It's not like the past that they had to paint in Photoshop and compare and render and see how it goes, right? So I would say it's great that he's trying to explore, but he should definitely look into more anatomy, study the basics, proportion. Can I see the other image?
That's the whole image.
Yeah. So I think it's great that he's exploring, but I would say he's moving too fast. How many years has he been working, basically? How many months, or I don't know.
About 1 year.
1 year.
Yeah.
So I would say he should have spent more time on the sculpting.
The anatomy.
Yes. Forget about like technical side for a bit, at least for 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah,
I like that.
3 months. Ryan, there's a point. I'm sure you had this in your life. In everything that actually, there is a point that you'll feel you're leveling up. There's a moment you click. You understand. Okay, it's changing now. When that happens, you shouldn't stop. You should keep going. If you stop, your brain resets again.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, totally. I'd agree with that, Daniel, myself, because technically you've got some, like, I think the cloth at the top and the cloth around the head, but, you have a good fabric on the dress, right? And so you've got some work that you're moving in here, but the anatomy, we definitely run into problems, especially in that face. And then there's a little bit where there's the sternum and, but I can see you're indicating like the eighth rib and all of that. But, then we get to the ankle. So I'd agree. I mean, I think that's not a bad idea to spend 2 months and just focus on anatomy. And I almost would recommend against classes and just holing up and becoming a hermit and studying. You were mentioning Richet's book, Artistic.
Because I mean, anatomy is, if you have a good sculpt in anatomy, eventually, this is the best book. Actually, this is what I was saying. I have it on my desk right now.
Especially if you read. Like, do you read? The reading of it is what helped me the most.
That's the most important part. Pictures you can find on the internet.
Right.
I mean, I know why he's trying to. This is amazing, actually, that he's trying to explore and understand materials and everything. I did that myself. Right. That's part of the way. But I think he should take a small step back and just focus on one thing. That's what I said. He has a big goal, but he needs to take small chunks. Anatomy itself is a big thing. Again, he needs to break that into smaller chunks. Got it. So when I said 2 months, maybe he has to spend a week on just hands, a week on head, to get the basics, to understand what it is. And then it will click. And then at that point, he can just move forward and go from there.
Yeah.
When it clicks, he can figure it out. This is for everyone. When it clicks, he can understand and find a way easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. So work the route, Danny, and I think anatomy is the route right now. You just got to work on that. And I agree, 2 months is a good time. It's really nice to actually give those points, because I know you got a lot of stuff going on, Illustrator, all that stuff, but anatomy is going to help you all the way through.
Yes.
All right, great. So we got a bunch of people, so we will hustle a touch, not too much. But let's start with Corinne. And Corinne, should we look at Itza? Let's look at Itza.
Okay, so that's great that she's working on cloth.
Yeah, it's coming across.
Yeah, it's coming out nicely. So can she feel where she's doing wrong here, or can she see that it's not like she's doing? I mean, the proportions are getting there, right? I see like a big progress, basically. I can see like folds are looking nice. Is pants are work in progress or done?
Work in progress.
Work in progress. Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of cloth. I think she's using Marvelous, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would improve the simulation on the sleeves a bit, because there's like she said work in progress, so it's hard for me to critic. But I think it's going the right way. But I would again suggest like anatomy again. Hands are a bit, basically, she needs to study more individual fingers and palm hand, back of the hand, the thumb and the relaxed posture of it. Like, I think she mentioned it's work in progress. I don't know exactly how far she is with the anatomy. Maybe it's good actually if I mention about Marvelous a little bit, because we use Marvelous a lot and I use it a lot myself. It's becoming a norm in the industry. Actually, you can get great results with it. The other thing is like people should be patient a bit with Marvelous, because it's unpredicted. You get a fold and that's hard. I understand it, but just be patient a bit and play with the particle distance. She's asking for more focus on the cloth. Yeah. So I would say you should probably play more with the shirt. You already have this result, the jacket. I would suggest to go back to Marvelous again, increase the particle distance to 15, and try to slowly relax, like don't rush it. Try for 2 hours, try different, like move the cloth left and right, whatever, until you get a fold that you can like, and I would say give a break to your eyes every 30 minutes and then come back to it, because sometimes you work with something for too long and then you don't like it at all. And then the next day you come back, you're like, oh, this is not bad actually. I thought it's bad, but it's not bad.
Has that happened to anybody else? Yeah, I totally understand that. I love that idea though, of working with Marvelous slower, because I think you're right. People do rush, myself included. Because it's a simulation, so we're like, all right, we're gonna put the pattern together. We'll simulate the damn thing, and why is it fucking up? What the hell is that? Yeah.
So just be a bit gentle with Marvelous, and then you'll get good results from it. And then try to make the patterns as realistic as possible. Actually, women are really good with patterns. They understand it somehow better than. I mean, I'm not like when I needed help, I was asking my wife, "Is this the pattern is correct or not?" And she was actually giving me help. So yeah, I mean, definitely try to stick to realistic patterns because Marvelous was made for fashion design initially, so it works really well if you know how to make the patterns.
Cool. All right. Rashid, this is a couple of things. Rashid, I'm going to show the final
I guess
project,
he's a fan
Paladin.
of Blizzard, right?
What's that?
He's a fan of Blizzard, I guess.
Yeah, that's the place.
I think he's on the right track. If his goal is like to work for Blizzard, he's on the right track on that. So, what kind of information he can give me about this one? What is the poly count and
Rashid, you there?
how
Talk to
many tickets
me.
you have there?
There's the wireframe.
Oh, okay, 58,000. I think that's good with the current technology. I would improve the wireframe a bit. Again, I said like I have OCD with wireframe, especially on the cloth. Because imagine like if one game decides to do cloth sim, right?
Yeah.
If you divide the pattern, especially for the scared, it's actually very easy that you can have even quad basically polygons, and you can distribute them properly, evenly everywhere. Right now, you have on some areas it's actually there's a longer distance between the edge loops. I would be picky about that. So yeah, I would improve that low poly a little bit, and I think stylized is getting there. I'm not a stylized guy, but I mean, if this is what he's aiming for, and I think he can still improve the hires a bit. He could add more details basically, but it's hard to say because it's a stylized character.
Yeah.
It makes it easier for riggers. When you work on something, you have to think about the next person also. It's not just about making art for yourself. If you want to work for games, yes, exactly, Ryan.
You're talking about the size of these, yeah.
Yeah,
got it.
That's best.
Okay, perfect. All right, so Varun's work here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's doing a good job overall. I like that cloth material.
Mm-hmm.
The belt can be improved. I don't know what he's trying to achieve here. Is it supposed to be a realistic character or stylized realistic?
It's a stylized realistic, but it's gearing towards realistic.
Yes. So material looks good to me. It feels heavy if that's what he's trying to achieve. The belt can be improved, like his belt, the sash and around the belt. That feels like a bit not in like it doesn't match the rest of the cloth somehow. It doesn't give me a good feeling in general. Yes, and the piece is hanging down.
Yeah, what you're saying.
And also like the material itself doesn't feel like I'm not sure what I'm looking at exactly. But at the top, like I can see a lot of pattern on the cloth, which looks pretty good. I think he should probably check his gold material. I don't know if that's gold or just metal or
brass or
shiny. Yeah, so probably he should just take a look at the physical attribute of that if he's doing it right or not.
What about the skin? Because that's the big beast for a lot of people, right?
I think his skin is. Yeah, the shader needs more work. What is he using for this one to render it?
If I remember correctly, this was Marmoset. Yeah, it's Marmoset.
Yeah, I think skin doesn't look correct, but it looks.
It's close, but it's still missing something, right?
It's a bit pale. You should work on the texture. That's one thing. But the skin material itself, in order to get the skin right, you should probably study how thick the skin is, the fat, what's under it. Because the soft surface shader is usually it's kind of made based on real physics, how far the light goes in, how far they scatter, like all that. So where he needs to have like his ears are the same as his face right now. If I wanted to emphasize like there's subsurface, I would have some red areas on the ear, or maybe it's because of the lighting. It's hard to judge. But yeah, definitely the skin looks a bit too pale.
Yeah, that's one of the big issues I have with skin is it's so light dependent.
Yeah, and then the like the shaved head and beard, that doesn't look right to me. He should spend more time studying stubble.
Yeah,
that's a tiny detail, but worth like all those tiny stuff together makes a big difference.
Yeah, maybe it's getting rid of the kind of faux
Yeah,
stubble and then just putting real stubble in.
yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wouldn't paint the stubble by hand or in Photoshop or in Painter,
Mm-hmm.
I would take a photo. It's hard to do. You can paint it by hand if you have the time, but you have to do it one by one, or it's not easy.
Yeah.
I would definitely do that. Or the other way would be like if you wanted to get a stubble, he could use cards, hair cards, make it
Mm-hmm.
3D. That's another way.
Okay. Cool. All right. Thank you. And then, all right. So, Andrew.
I'm trying to go fast, right? And it's very hard to give the best in such a short time. So,
yeah, I understand. The key thing is just if we can come away with one or two things to focus on for the next week to 2 weeks, right? Because
yeah.
all we need as artists is progress. We just need progress. And sometimes we just need someone pointing us in the direction. And so that's where your advice is very helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So Andrew's been working his butt off on Marvelous Designer. And he's got this character's just at the beginning stages because there's like a whole thing that sits up on top of this. But anyways, your thoughts on this?
First thing I would say, he should do more research on samurai if he wants to get it accurate and 100% correct. The pants needs more work. It looks like the folds are kind of twisted, which is wrong. I would still spend more time in Marvelous and slowly play with it, as I mentioned, to get the results that I want. And definitely study how the pants are, like look at the samurai images or, Japanese culture and see how it's made. There are patterns on internet you can find, basically research for that. Then I think he needs to work on the proportion as well a bit. Like his hand feels like his arms are a bit too fat. I think he's trying to get into details too fast. Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
First, I would focus on the overall proportion and get everything correct. Like the silhouette and everything, and then I would slowly build up on top of that. So I would say take a step back and work on. Don't worry about if the folds are too detailed or if you get the even Marvelous. Like this is how I should work. If I put the simulation on particle distance on 20, and if the overall silhouette looks good, then I'll increase it slowly and let it simulate, and then I'll get a good result at the end.
Got it. Great. All right. So you're not sold on the wrinkles twisting around the feet, legs. Sorry, you're not sold on that.
No.
The arm is appearing a little thick. I mean, it is actually a separate piece of armor, but I understand your perception of it. And the perception is actually what's really important, because if you're feeling that, you're not going to take time to understand much more beyond it.
Yeah, and I'm working on summaries now. I know exactly how it's made. I did extensive research on that.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Absolutely. Okay. And so
the leggings are too big. Like the lower leg armor piece, that's like too fat, too thick.
Okay.
And it's basically the size of it is big, right? But the thickness is kind of too thin.
Mm-hmm. I heard. Did you guys actually go to Japan? Did you guys actually try these outfits on?
I didn't go, but I think they had a trip. I mean, I have a lot of books we have a lot of books about samurais and stuff. Research on like that.
Yeah.
So I search on internet a lot as well. It's not necessarily just like I think they did research before I come, but when I joined, I didn't go anywhere myself. I was just researching myself. I don't know what they did before me. I didn't ask.
Yeah. Now, in terms of the proportions, what do you think about where the rib cage, the rib cage? Let's say the rib cage and the belly area. Is that what you're saying needs to be expanded a little bit, or no?
I feel like his head is a bit small.
Mm-hmm.
His arms are too thick.
Mm-hmm.
And right now it feels like his lower leg is too big. Like it's too wide. I don't know how to describe it. Maybe you can point to it.
Okay. What was it again, sir?
I was saying like his lower leg, the armor piece. Shin guard. Yeah, that one like it feels like the same thickness as his thigh. That's almost like a flat line going down all the way, right?
Yeah.
And then arms are too fat, and his torso looks like kind of tiny compared to the rest, and his head is small. And then you should never forget the I think this artistic anatomy book shows a lot about the proportions. They should remember like the 7.5 head size, definitely follow that for the proportion, and
Yeah, that's
then,
interesting. Are you guys using 7.5? Because also some, like if we go all the way back, there's some,
mhm.
I can imagine maybe some 6.5 head characters probably popping up,
No,
for historical accuracy.
yeah, I never used 6.5 myself. I actually didn't check what they're using at work. I'm just eyeballing it, I'm just used to
Yeah.
it now. So
Yeah.
I just like do it. And if it's wrong, I'll just change it. Like, it's a sense, you're not measuring it yourself, right? When you make anatomy, you just work on it and make it happen. But I think best is 7.5, Even Andrew Loomis was saying 7. I'm not sure actually. Was it Andrew Loomis? He was
I
saying
think
like seven
I
and a
think
half.
he uses 7.5. 8 is kind of what I like because of the math,
Yes.
but 7.5, but it does tend to be a bit ethereal, So
Yeah, and at the time of Andrew Loomis, was it Andrew Loomis? I don't know, 1920, something like that.
Mhm. Yeah.
They were like saying like 7 looks like or 7.5 looks like a simple guy. It doesn't look interesting, And then they were
Yeah.
going for 8 or 8.5 or 9.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit much.
I think 7 or 7.5 should work for this one.
Okay, got it. Kyle. Now, how are you in doing environment work?
So I can give you my sense.
Yeah, so here's Kyle. He's been working on the environment stuff, so we'll just kind of leave it right in this trajectory of pieces. I'll leave it in these two.
I mean, the leather looks good to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, the boxes on the floor, they feel like floating. I don't feel like a sense of shadow or anything like that. If that's what he wants me to create on, and the floor doesn't match the rest of the theme, basically.
Yeah.
Kind of like the chair and the desk looks really good. I would just say, I don't know, like I have a desk here which is kind of similar to that, and it doesn't have any specular overall. I think material-wise it looks great overall, but the floor is a bit off.
Yeah, that's about where we were. The boxes don't have the contact shadow, and the floor was just kind of put there for now, but it's become a distraction.
Yeah, and even the color on the floor, I mean, I know something like that could exist, but if you're making a piece of art, I would just still, play with the colors and try to make them more interesting, match everything. Color theory, right? It's hard to explain.
Yeah. All right, Aaron. Aaron, which piece should I look at? Should we look at this? Let's look at this piece, Aaron. Especially since we're talking samurai stuff now.
This is Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Oh, and Kyle's got a question. Would you go dark on his floor? My thought was to go dark,
definitely.
not light.
I mean, you have to play with it. Here's the thing, rule of thumb for me is like, if I feel something is wrong, then there is something wrong. Something is wrong, and I'll experiment with it until I get it right. So I feel like the floor was. I would go with the darker floor. All right. So for this one, I think the presentation is good. Overall proportion needs some work. He's definitely getting the right direction. He has the right mindset. It's just like I feel like his lower body is like tiny comparing to the upper body, and his hands need more work. I'm a bit not sold on the materials. I'm not sure what those is it silver or the armor pieces. I'm not sure what they are. Yeah, I would suggest that he should basically study materials more and also proportion. Cloth depends on what he wants to get. He should definitely study more on marvelous. He's definitely in the right direction.
So if there was one thing that he'd spend the next 2 months on, what do you think it should be? Do you think he should go back to anatomy and do the proportions, or should he start? Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely do that. I would, if he's interested in materials, I would definitely spend the time half, and that like proportions and work on the shaders more, like work on materials, understand that what makes metal, what makes cloth,
Right.
what actually he should adjust on it to make it work, basically.
Right. What about things like getting detail work and engraving in the pieces? Is that something that draws your attention, or are you more just drawn to the material?
Yeah, definitely that does. But first, always look at the big picture. So actually, one thing that I just saw now, like those bolts, the big bolts on the shoulders, shoulder pads, that's a bit off. Like if he shouldn't project it like that. I would say with the current technology, games have the ability to, you can model those and bake it like that. You shouldn't just bake it flat.
What about in comparison? Because he's got the same thing on the gloves. So I get that on the shoulders, put that in Geo. But what about the gloves? Should those be normal?
If it's too small, it doesn't matter. But if it's like big, the ones on the shoulder is big, right? You can see them easily. Or the carving you mentioned, I would still the big ones I would model it. I have some geometry there to make it to change the silhouette. But the small ones I would bake it. I would usually look at the big picture. If everything fits together, then it works. If it doesn't, then I'll adjust. But you mentioned like tiny details. Is there any image that I can see just the model itself without any?
I don't think, Aaron.
We can look at that one, the close-up ones.
This one.
The one on the bottom, next one.
Okay.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I think he has a good understanding of small details in general. It's a bit too busy. Like the big details are nice, but I'm not sure what I'm looking at on the small ones. It's a bit lost.
Okay. So is it fair to say
carving is hard?
Yeah. Is it fair? All that bas relief. So is it fair to say probably materials, like work materials?
And, work materials, work on proportions, and then I would have spent like 2 months on these two first.
Okay. Cool. Sweet. Thank you. So here's Robert's work. And this is we'll just go straight down. So topology, but I think these images kind of speak for themselves there. So
yeah, I think he's on the right track. He's looking for a stylized character. So I like this character overall. Is he going to texture it, or this is it basically?
Yeah, that's actually the journey he's on right now, is really making sure he takes it kind of all the way.
If he's, Brian, but you know about this, like when you sculpt, basically when you make stylized characters, it's okay that if the anatomy is a bit not exactly 100%, because you have a, different mindsets. I don't know. The character overall looks good to me, but if I want to be picky, I would still work more on anatomy, like on the shoulders. The chest is, I think part of it is because of being stylized. I cannot be picky about it, as I mentioned. Yeah.
You get a little bit more of the threading of the deltoid, right?
Yeah, exactly. The deltoid muscles, and also the pecs. It's symmetrical. I wouldn't do that. The chest and also the six-pack muscle.
Oh yes.
All the six packs. Yeah. It's too symmetrical. Like it's not like that on real humans.
Yeah.
But I mean, as I said, trying to make something stylized, right? It makes it hard to criticize that.
But I think that still works. That's still solid. Especially because there's so much. Like for example, probably could go in here and get a little bit more of the detail there, like how the actual bone and this little piece comes up, and then the tendon comes off that, and then they have more stuff going on there.
Yeah, what I would do for that, I would study horse, and then for the lower part of the claws and stuff, I would look at an eagle or a parrot, a macaw or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they can combine these together and make something still following the. That's actually what creature designers do. They just don't invent muscles. They follow something in real life, basically.
Yeah, I remember Carlos Fuentes saying monsters are just a creature. They're just an animal and human. That's it. Like he doesn't make anything up. It's just animal and human. Yeah,
and if he says that, he's an amazing artist. So
yeah, I know, right? I was like, yes, okay, fine. We just heard gospel.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. All right, Alyssa. And now, Alyssa, we've been on this model for a bit. So now the questions that are really here is, what is it that she needs to focus on for the next 2 months? I love that notion. So if we take a look at this, we'll look just at this.
She's definitely on the right track.
Yeah, this is actually, so if we compare these two, this is what I saw just a couple days ago.
Right? I can see it.
Totally.
Two things that I see first, I'm going to say that because overall it looks good, right? She's going the right direction, definitely. And when I say this, please don't stop there. Like, don't think like this is it and you have to stop. Now you can get a job. Do more. You can get a lot like a long way from here. So the first two things that I see, materials are nice and all that, right? It still can be improved. I would say she should focus on materials and take it to the next level. Metals. I mean, I don't know if those are metals or not.
Yeah, not sold on that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the skulls, those two things. And his hand is actually like the first thing that sounds like, okay, his chest looks good, the fur and the stuff, the cloth looks good. But suddenly, like those hands and the skulls and the metal and the leather, they're a bit off. So, and the reason is because the rest of it is getting the right direction, and then suddenly you have these pieces that are not matching with the good stuff. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she should spend time improving that, especially the anatomy of the hand. I'm very picky about anatomy, by the way. So yeah, I would do that and study more. Hand is a hard thing, so don't give up. Like it takes years to understand how to sculpt really good hands.
Yeah, well, that hand I saw from yours was pretty awesome. So I'll take you at that. One of the dilemmas, though, that Alyssa has right now, because she's feeling it. She's a little choked up on this. She's been on this model for a long time. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alyssa. But the dilemma yeah.
How long has she been on this?
How long she came back to it. So Alyssa, you tell me.
Over a year. I would just move on.
She hasn't been on it for a full year, though, I think, Alyssa, right? You were off it for a while, or am I wrong?
Brian, the thing that I would do is I would move on, because limiting yourself on one thing, you're just learning one thing, right?
Fair enough. Yeah.
So don't be picky about this. You're not going to be perfect at everything. Just move on, make something new, explore different things, And then when you come back to this, you're like, oh, I made a mistake here, I made a mistake there, Then you will realize your mistakes.
So this is the next one, right, that she's got kind of waiting in the wings for her to take to the next direction.
Yeah, I can already see there is an improvement on this one compared to the other one. That's what I'm saying when you should move on. I think she's moving to details too fast, like sculpting pores and stuff. That's too early.
Agreed.
It's always hard to give feedback on anatomy. She has some really good points. I think she's like, I would work on the lips a bit. They're kind of flat on the lower lips.
Mm-hmm.
The lower lip is a bit flat. I think her chin needs some work. She got some nice, I don't know the name of the muscles on the face. I haven't used them for a long time, but on the side of the nose, those fats in the skin under the eye socket. Yeah, so those areas are nice, but the lips are still not there for me. And I think she should avoid putting pores on it or paint on it, because that covers the mistake. And you're basically tricking your brain that looking at something that you want to look. I would avoid that. I would just focus more on the muscles, and also on the side of the lips. I think that she could do more work. The ears, definitely. She should have studied the ears a lot.
Get that little sense of that thing moving down in there, and then
and even the structure of the ear. Ear is made of several parts. It's not just like.
Yeah.
I think she should just get deep into that and understand how the ear is made. For example, like on top of the ear, you see like the ears doesn't have any kind of thickness, and it's just like connected to the head suddenly. So I can see that easily. And then I think she has a good sense of eyes, but definitely can be improved.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. All right, so that makes sense to me as well, Alyssa. So we were here last time, and we wanted to get farther. I'm just going through this real quick, and this is quite a huge leap.
It's easy. I would honestly, Ryan, if it was me, I would move on. Like I would move to the next piece. Like wrap this up. You can still like make the skulls and study the hand as a separate project, and bring it back to this guy and put it on this guy.
Ansari. All right, some prop work. Alyssa's like, yes, thank God, get me off this model. I love it. I want to take a second though and honor you, Alyssa, because she came in, and after a while she came because she'd been that, and then she left it alone, and so it was then this was where she left it in February, and then she came into office hours, and I was like, we need to finish this, or at least get this a little further along, and so you did a really good job of taking that further.
Ryan, when I said you can break the problem into smaller chunks, right?
Yeah.
Just make a skull as a separate project, make a human hand as a separate project,
There you
and
go.
then work on a metal piece as a separate project to learn how the metal or leather material works.
Yeah, and it'll work for this as well. She'll be able to just do that for that.
And I can already say, I think she made this one after that one, right?
She did, yeah.
But you can see, like, I don't know how brain works. There's something that every time you move to the next project, you become better.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
I don't know.
I don't have an explanation for that. So.
All right. Great job, Alyssa. All right. So Cerie's last one. I didn't see another comment after that, but we'll have to do this again.
Yes.
And I'm trying to figure out which one we should look. Should I look at the prop or the new ones? A little bit stylized.
Yeah, stylized. I think for stylized looks good. Can you open my artist station, Ryan? I want to just show something because I made a weapon before. You just search Siamak pronunciation.
Absolutely, yeah. It's something that Susan sends me those things for everybody to make sure I don't screw it up. One of the things I love about Susan.
Yeah, that's great. Look at the Gatling gun or even the backpack.
Yes. No, not
I think the gun is like
the gun or the guy in the gun.
The gun, the one that you just opened.
Okay.
Or you can look at the guy as well. I mean, you can look at both of them. So when I wanted to make this one, it's not even done. I just left it there. I gathered a lot of references. I'm just saying this because it's hard to give feedback on props. Depends on what you want to do, right? So I'm just going to say how I made this. I looked at a lot of references on real guns, and then I decided where I want to change things. So do you want to zoom on a specific area for anything? So yeah, I mean, probably if you look at like a U.S. military gun, this is very similar, but I changed on some areas. I'm not a great hard surface artist. Like, Vitaly Bolgarov, right? He's just the best. He's amazing. For props, I would say if you make complicated stuff, it's more interesting, and you learn how to design and you learn how to deal with hard surface stuff. So if I pick, to make a prop, I would just make it as complicated as possible. Challenge myself. You know what I mean? So going back to his work, if you want to go back to his work again, yeah. So this is great. Don't get me wrong. It looks good. It looks stylized. There's like nice details and stuff. But if you want to take really good attention and like make people surprised, I would like expand this. Make more complicated armor pieces if you're into props.
Mm-hmm.
Does it make sense? Like make a helmet that is crazy complicated. Add carvings on it and things like that.
Not necessarily functional, but like just really push.
Yeah, I mean push your brain, imagination to design stuff that you can enjoy when you look at it. Vitaly is like he's doing a great job, right? But everything he makes doesn't exist. But because of his imagination, he designed a real robot that they made it in Korea, basically.
Yeah. That's interesting actually, because the conversation I had this morning with the exec, one of the things he mentioned was, how important it was to train his 3D artists to also be like visionary.
Yes.
And I think that's to get to the point of what you were saying about earlier about jobs too, because we get hired job, I think. And we have to, I was saying we get hyper focused on job, the job, but the job really wants you to not be worried about the job and to be a visionary and to start to think outside the box. So it's this weird catch-22. It's a tough one.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you focus on a job, I want to get a job. Yeah, I understand it that if you don't have money, and it's totally reasonable, right? You have to get a job, but don't try to get your dream job fast. That's not going to happen. Your dream job is going to be what you will work for hard, and that's why they call it dream job, right? I mean, you will get there eventually, and it's going to be super awesome. I don't know how to explain it. It's amazing, right? But you have to go through a journey, basically. And Vitaly wasn't like this. The first day he started working, he was amazing always, as long as I remember. But if you ask him, I'm pretty sure he's going to tell you, like, he went through a lot to get to here.
Yeah. I remember the model he worked on. He told me he worked on it for 6 months.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's out anymore, but he worked on it for 6 months, and he just had like him and a couple of guys online and his girlfriend. I don't know if they're married now or not, but he just had his girlfriend, and that was it. Like 6 months. What do you think of this?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's that.
Sometimes actually, it's funny. You know how many projects I've worked on and I just didn't show and just canceled working on them? There's tons of stuff that I made and I just like, okay, I don't want to continue this because this is not going the way that I want to go. And I mean, obviously, Vitaly is like super amazing. I'm not nowhere near his level on making stuff like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even that guy with that crazy amount of skill and how fast he works, you say he has spent 6 months, right, on one thing.
Yeah.
That's what it should be, basically.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Siamak, thank you so much for you went over and above, and I really appreciate you spending the time. So we'll have to bring you in and another time and take care of you for that. So I really thank you so much, man.
Oh, you're welcome, man. I hope it was helpful. We spent 2 hours. This is not a topic that can be done in 2 hours or 10 hours or 20 hours. It's a long conversation,
All right, guys, head over to ArtStation, and I'll give you the link right here. That's where you can get a hold of Siamak. And
I can copy their links.
Yeah, in there. I just posted it in there. So make sure you can follow him there, and you've got all contact, and you can see what he's kind of up to, and especially this new project you guys are on, which is kind of exciting. Yeah, that looks cool. All right, my friend, thank you so much. It's great. I've seen you in the forums. I've seen you around for a while. And when I was over at Pixlogic, and some of the projects you were on, I remember that Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I'm really glad to have this conversation with you.
Thanks, man. Same here. I'm glad to.
All right. Take care, guys. Have a fantastic night.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. So I want to thank you so much for being here, for taking the time, and for listening to this podcast. And I want to ask a couple of things from you. Number one, make sure you leave a comment or you rate this on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever it is that you're getting this. That's going to make a big difference in helping us get the word out and get people to know who we are. All right. The other thing is I want to make sure you know where to find us. So you can head over to www.gameartinstitute.com, where you can learn about our flagship program, which is the Game Artist Bootcamp. This is designed for those who are really looking to move the needle on their career and really lock in that job. You may have gone to school and learned a bunch, maybe haven't learned a bunch. But at the Game Art Institute, the primary focus we have is the very specific industry skills, the triggers that you really need to hit in that job interview. What are the specific things that they're looking for? That's what we're going to be training you on. We're taking applications right now for environment artists and for character artists. So make sure you head over to www.gameartinstitute.com and apply today. That way we can have that conversation, make sure this is a fit for you, make sure that you're a fit for it, and if everything is perfect, then we will sign you up for that right away and get you into your training and start moving the needle on your career. All right? Thank you so much again for being here. Take care. Have an amazing day.